The timing on this is just so it's unpredictable. Okay, so I am Tara. Welcome to Sagas and Sass yet again. I'm here with my fellow hosts Nick, Jonathan, and Nami, and we're here because we have a lot of. Oh no, there goes my computer. All right, let's try that again. I don't know if you guys could even hear that. I'm sorry. I'm so tired. This West Coast timing has me just. I getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning is not a thing I should be ever having to do. All right. So welcome to Sagas and Sass. I'm Tara, along with fellow hosts Nick, Jonathan, and Nami. And we're here because we have a lot of thoughts and feelings about Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse. Jonathan, it's your turn.
This is season 1, episode 12, covering The Drowning Man, which is the first half of King of Scars.
Thank you. I'm totally out of it.
If you're watching live, join us in the chat, or after the fact, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sagas and Sass to continue the conversation.
And just as a reminder, the views expressed in the show are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent the show as a whole.
I feel like we're almost always in agreement, but after all these months, I decided to take a page from other webcasts that I'm on and put a disclaimer in just in case.
I think that's really
turns
smart.
out somebody's like a raging insane person. Secretly.
And we've lost Jonathan completely. He's just gone.
Yeah, apparently he was so embarrassed by not knowing that he had to read something that he just left.
He just ran away from us. Jonathan,
He was like, oh gosh.
I wonder if he got kicked though, because he was like, it was like spotty for a second too. I heard you started talking and then he was talking and then he was like, oh wait, thank you. And then he was gone. So, well, hopefully he'll be back soon. But hold on a second. I'm just gonna message and see if he is. Anyway, this is yet apparently going to be another episode where I get to edit things for the podcast version. Oh, fun. Hopefully just at the very beginning, though. All right. So hopefully Jonathan will rejoin us very soon. But until he does, we're starting King of Scars tonight, as Nick mentioned, and we're only going through the first half. So there's like a lot of spoilery stuff that happens in the second half that we're going to Jonathan's back, yay, that we're going to do. so yeah, I was just saying we're doing the first half of King of Scars tonight. This probably won't be a super long episode because we got to be really, really careful not to spoil the second half. I mean, at this point, I think that anybody who's listening to us has probably read the entire book, but it just leaves, we want to leave plenty to be discussed with the second half, and trust me, there will be plenty.
Oh yeah.
So to kick off this episode, I just want to talk about the new POVs that we have in this book. Nina is back. We've already met her, but also in the first half, with the exception of Dima, the little boy, I think, who has the prologue chapter, because Leigh Bardugo is still doing that sort of Game of Thronesy thing where the prologue is a character we never see again. But so other than Dima, we do have Nina back, and then of course we have Nikolai, yay, and Zoya, yay. I really love both of these characters. Honestly, like as POV characters, but we've discussed before, during the original trilogy, especially, that Zoya kind of grew on us. But Nami and I both were like, oh, but also like there's so much more. And we finally get to talk about the so much more because Zoya is a POV chapter or POV character in this book. And we learned so much about her. And it turns out she's like, she still did, obviously she still did some pretty crappy things in the past, but as things go, like she's still kind of a teenager, and we can forgive most of those things because she's pretty awesome.
Look, she's a queen, and we love her.
Yeah, I think one of the best things about Zoya's POV is that, she's about 19 in the main, 18 or 19 in the main series, and she is young, mid-20s now, so 22, 23, somewhere around there, presumably. And I think one of the best things is that there's specifically a section that I actually just caught up on rereading today. I want to say it's her last POV before the second like before at the end it's her last POV in the first section, and there's a part where she just straight up is like, yeah, I was like super jealous of Alina and that made no sense. Definitely did a lot of cruel things as a child. Oops, we're trying to not do that. And I was like, hey, look at you. It's just, I find Zoya's POV often just like injures me personally because it just comes as like 100% a personal attack. Like, Leigh Bardugo, how dare you do this to me? I feel victimized.
Yes, well, sometimes the bullies need a little bit of comeuppance, I guess.
Yup. It was just, yeah, it's just really nice. And I really love Zoya's POV because it's also like really interesting to see her point of view after literally being in Alina's head for 3 books and being like, whomst is this bitch? And then you're like, oh, she's traumatized too. Fuck.
Well, I mean, and she doesn't really seem a lot better when we hear about her from Nina's point of view either. Like, obviously Nina really looks up to her and everything, but she looks up to her in that, ooh, scary, scary big teacher person kind of way. Zoya's too perfect for words kind of way. So it's really great to get inside of her head and see, the things that she questions about like herself and everything.
Yeah, this book,
but Zoya is also much older than Nina too. So
she's only like 2 or 3 years older than her though. Like 3 years.
Oh, I got the impression it was more like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think so Nina in the Six of Crows duology is like Alina's 17.
Yeah, because Alina's also younger than Zoya by a little bit as well. So I think it's like 2 years between like 2 or 3 years between Zoya and Alina, and then another 2 or 3 years between Alina and Nina.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
So I would say minimum 4 years difference, but possibly more like 5. So I think Nina's like 18 right now, and Zoya is like 22, possibly even 23, like Nami was saying.
Yeah, and I think Nikolai,
it's not a huge difference, but honestly, like in the real world, 17, 18 to 22 or 23 is a big difference. So also, like
as the person in this group who has done that the most recently, my sister is 22 and I'm 26, and she is miles away from me when I was 23 and she was 20, miles away when I was 20 and she was 17, miles away. 3 years when you're in like end of teens to mid 20s is enormous.
It's a lot. Oh yeah. But yeah, I mean,
by the way, I just confirmed that Nina is 18 and Zoya is 23.
23. Okay. Yeah, we're
and I think that was Nikolai like 25 or 26.
Yeah, he's still a bebe, but I mean, and also like I did read when I was looking up things to discuss today that wouldn't like spoil things and stuff. I did see one person at least commenting. I think it was on Reddit, but not the Grishaverse subreddit. It was like a YA subreddit. Where they were saying that they didn't like Nikolai's POV because like he wasn't as charming as they like saw him being, and I was like, well, that's kind of what it like you're getting into his head now. He can't always be like the way he honestly presented himself to Alina.
I love his
well, he can't charm himself, right? I mean, that's
exactly that. You can't charm yourself. But no, like I love Nikolai's POV so much because like you literally see like the inner workings of his like ADHD brain just like freaking out constantly, and just like you can see like the mad scientist inventor part of him more than just like the hello, I am a charming prince, and then it's just him lost and chained to a bed and staring at a pretty girl going, hi.
I mean, for God's sakes, he created like an entire like I mean, he's got that count or whatever the guy is, a duke, or he's some sort of, upper echelon of Ravkan society, who's just like he's acting sort of, and also sort of a wastrel, and he's using this like vast land, and he's got it all shrouded in mist. Like he's got his own like mad scientist laboratory with David, and it's like, can we just also like have like a David and Nikolai side plot where like all we have like nobody's being like hurt, and Nikolai's not a monster ever again, and the two of them are just in their like secret Ravkin science fortress.
I just need them happily being mad scientists while Genya and like Zoya are just like, what's wrong with our men? Also, just can we talk about the best moment in this book, which was David just being like, "Hey, don't hurt my wife, or I will stab you." And I was like, good boy, confirming once more that David is the best Grishaverse character. Like, do I love Zoya? Yes. Do I identify with her on every level? Is she the best? Absolutely not. David is.
I think it had. Well, shoot, I don't know if it was this part, if it was part 1 or part 2, but there's a conversation. It doesn't matter because it's not spoiler, but there's a conversation between Genya and David where, you know, Genya's basically like, oh, he doesn't compliment me enough. And he's like, oh, I've got your list of compliments that you wrote for me on this piece of paper in my pocket. And I was like, this is just, it's like so pure.
Yeah.
Just incredibly wholesome and good. Also, don't mind me as I just flip through the book to try to find this like very specific moment of David being like, my wife.
Oh my God, with the Borat again.
It will never go away.
It's never gonna die. I mean, the timing with the new movie and everything.
I still haven't seen the new movie.
I mean, you know, a little bit of a sidetrack, but like it's as obnoxious as the first one, you know, like it's one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you're cringing the entire time, but you're also like, oh no, like this actually happened. Like these people are real. Yeah, so I mean, I watched it, and if I can watch it, I figure most people probably can, because I hate humor like that. I really do. Like Superbad, I think was one of the worst movies ever made. So. And I know everybody loves this. There's something about Mary, same thing. Hate. But anyway, Tara does not like super awkward, awful humor like that. Well, and then also, now that we've gushed about Nikolai and Zoya, we do have Nina back, and her chapters are a little bit depressing, a little bit sad.
I would like to clarify that her chapters are incredibly, really depressing and sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'll be fair though. Like the way Leigh Bardugo writes Nina's grief is pretty darn good, honestly. Like, you know, it's very. I think that's why they're so depressing. Is like, wow, this is like pretty realistic. Now, personally, for me, it's like, oh, come on, she was like only with Matthias like for very short periods of time, but like Nick and I had this conversation outside of like in a Facebook chat when he was reading the book. And again, I think this is something I don't want to go too much into detail, but it involves one of the people Nina meets, you know, on her journey in Fierda, and like just the idea that like she's supposed to apparently mourn Matthias for the rest of her life or something because she was in love with him for like a year and a half. Like, I know that they had their whole like survival story on the ice, and then he was in jail for a year and she didn't see him, and she put him there, and then he got out and they spent most of the time hating each other. So like, and I know that like, I'm not saying that she's wrong to grieve him by any means. I'm not saying that, but like to act like Matthias should be her end all and be all, or that she should even grieve him to the point of not, you know, moving on and doing other things with her life for more than like a few months to a year is kind of ridiculous, especially at that age. People
I don't know if you. I don't agree with that. If someone dies on you, it's a little different than if you just break up.
Oh, no, for sure. And I get that. I'm not at all saying like that she shouldn't be grieving him or whatever. But also, it's again, I think the timing.
But also, she shouldn't be celibate for the rest of her life.
Right. And I think also when people complain about Nina's like how short her grief period is, they're not understanding that not just the short amount of time she actually had in person with Matthias, like especially after he got out of jail or prison, like after they rescued them, she wasn't even with him for at least like 50% of the time, you know, during all the heists and everything. Like the most time they spent together was when she was recovering from Param on the boat, and she was like basically insensate. So
I mean, this is not that long after the events of the last book.
Nina spent 6 months
6 months
in Ravka at the Little Palace, and then after that she's been in Fjerda for I think 2 or 3 months.
Right, so it's not even a year.
Yeah, it's been not quite a year. You know, but again, like I don't think it's like, it's not cool to like rank on her grief was very deep, and it's not cool for people to be like, yeah, but it wasn't long enough. Also, everybody grieves differently too, and Nina is a very there was a in part of her backstory in this part of the book, there was like she was thinking back on the woman who ran the orphanage or wherever she lived, and when the Grisha came and discovered her powers and took her, the woman is, you know, she says like she's Mary, I think is what they said. She says she's Mary, like don't break her. So
I think it also makes sense that like Nina like slows down, or rather like reemerges from her mourning when she does, because on the one hand, like, let's be super weird, Carrie, lugging around your like dead boyfriend's body for a while.
That's
bad shit.
That's a problem. And
can we talk about?
I don't know how she actually did that. I don't know the mechanics of dragging
so basically
around.
I can't remember if it was like explicitly explained or this is just an elaborate headcanon of mine, but it was basically said that like Leonie is using her fabricator powers to keep Matthias's body from rotting, which is like, imagine how that went. Like, hi, nice to meet you. We're going on this mission together. Could you please preserve my dead boyfriend's body so I can bury him in a snowy barren wasteland? Because
when they first
a tree or something.
When they first mentioned that she hadn't buried him yet, my initial thoughts were, "Oh, is she going to just keep him around as a weapon so that she can animate him at will?"
No, that would be bad. That I would be a little bit like, I don't know, like what Nina does, like the to this point, like the bodies that she utilized in Crooked Kingdom, it was either a mistake, like before she knew what her powers were, or in the case of the bodies that she used at the end, she was basically using the bodies of poor people who had been like ravaged by the city of Ketterdam against the people who you know were a part of ruining their lives. So yeah, I up until now, I feel like I don't, unless somebody specifically tells Nina, which I could totally see Zoya doing, like, yo, reanimate my corpse and scare some people after I die. I don't think Nina's gonna do it without permission with somebody she cares about.
New headcanon. Ghost Queen Zoya, in which Nina just like reanimates Zoya's corpse and like goes
the corpse. She's the corpse bride.
She's the corpse.
Oh gosh.
Corpse bride Zoya. Oh no.
Oh Lord.
Here we are. Yeah, no, I just like how Nina's like recovery is a lot of like her being like, you know what, I gotta help these people.
Yeah.
And I like how, like, granted, I liked Nina's POV the least out of all this book, and it was kind of jarring for me because I really did enjoy Nina's POVs before. But another thing is that, like, I like reading happy things. So reading things that are like, you know, somebody actively mourning does not spark joy, no matter how well written it is. You know, so like it was kind of sad to not enjoy Nina as much as I did, but like she's on the struggle bus, and I hope that like in the second book we can get more. Like, I don't need happy Nina back, but I need at least a Nina who would consider eating a waffle back. Because right now I think she's forgotten about waffles, and that's honestly a bit tragic.
No, she mentioned.
I don't know. Waffles get mentioned.
Yeah, they do. She's going to make them for someone in the.
But
book.
I think that's in the second half. So I mean,
that's a good point. That's a good point.
But also, I mean, since we're on Nina and we've been talking about like her grief and stuff, I don't want to say get it out of the way, but like she does reach a sort of like, apex with her grief in the first half here, and she does finally let Matthias go. And like, I'll be honest, like this was only the second time I've read this book, but I definitely had to stop and cry a lot. When she finally like buries him, and it was mostly like she realizes that she's hearing the voices of other dead people who actually need her, and that the voice she's been hearing from Matthias it was never him, because he was actually at peace when he died. And like, I don't know, like, yeah. So that's really hard to read. Like the only like good part of that whole like section was when his stinking does his wolf appear in the first half of this book? He does, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm like 90% sure he does. So like his wolf appears, and like that was like the only like good part of all of that for me. Like,
for reference, first half ends with Nina starting to teach Hana like about her Grisha powers and training her, and with Zoya and Nikolai in like going into the Shadowfold with the crew and Psychotic Yuri, and looking at like the obelisk thingy, and then something appearing and being like, the fuck is that? And they're like, a trap!
It's a trap.
Yep, that. I don't know.
It's a trap. I like how we all just have to say it. You can't hear the words "it's a trap" and not try to quote, like not try to like.
It is legally
quote Admiral Akbar.
Yeah, it's not even quoting. It's not mocking. It's I don't even know. Imitating is probably the best word. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, other like the Nina chapters in the first half of this book are real rough, and like you said, Nami, it's like that's sad for me because like I love Nina so much.
Yeah,
it's just one of those things that it's really difficult to see people mourn in real life, obviously, and it's difficult to see a character that you care about a lot mourn, especially when it's like a character that you kind of come to like think of like, oh, like they could be my friend, or they're kind of like me. And I think for a lot of people, Nina is really that character. And so seeing her mourn so heavily, and seeing such a happy character mourn so heavily, is just sad, man.
Yeah.
Me, insightful, ends with it's sad, man.
Your insights are impeccable as always.
So I have a question on the wolf finding Nina and Matthias. And do we think the wolf has psychic connections to Matthias, or?
I mean, it might just be smell.
Also,
across the country, though, the entire country.
I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's psychic. I think it's. I think it's more of like. It's more of just it's another like little magic thing. Yep. You know what I mean? Especially with. And I'm not saying that all the Juskela wolves, but I don't think it's all the Juskela wolves that would be able to, do this. But remember that, oh my God, what is his name again? I'm so bad at the wolf's name. Trestle. Yeah. I don't know why I cannot for the life of me remember that. I think like we have to remember that when Matthias like took him in, he was already like mostly grown, you know what I mean? And I think that it was like nobody else wanted him, and he was this angry little wolf, and I think that changed. Well, and also normally when they let the wolves, when they release the wolves, the person who was their partner has actually died, and Matthias didn't. So that could have, I'm sure that I mean, if there's any sort of, if Leigh would ever explain it, I would guess that it has something to do with the way, like the age of the wolf when they bonded and how they bonded, and also the fact that that Tressel, or that Matthias was not actually dead when they released Tressel into the wild, and like he could sense it. you know,
Truthfully,
like
this was like one of those things that I was very willing to accept that the answer was magic or that the answer was just something
I am
unexplainable.
literally willing to accept. I don't care. I honestly don't care. I think like it's a puppy coming home to his master, and it's like sad and lovely at the same time. And you will never convince me that there is any reason that it didn't happen. Okay,
And the thing for me was that like I very much read it as sort of like a like, you know, obviously we don't know if this is one of those like magic worlds where gods are actual magical beings that exist that have just been, you know, worshipped by people or something crazy, or if like gods actually manifest this world or anything like that. But I sort of just like saw it as sort of like a poetic magical gel like influence and just like letting them reunite. Like honestly, I was straight up just like let Nina cuddle a puppy. Like just like she needs it, man. Like I know I know this probably sounds really weird for me, especially because I'm the person that's like explained every intricacy to me regarding the creature power mechanics and exactly how it works in every single capacity. I need minuscule details, and like for me to just be here and be like, yeah, puppy magic, y'all. But like,
yeah, exactly. When it comes to puppies, we need no explanation.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm like I don't need logic. I just like this is sweet and good, and I'm willing to believe in like weird fantasy Norse god for this.
Oh my god! I'm sorry. Yeah, when it comes, like I said, when it comes to puppies,
is Jill actually a tree? That's an important
explanation.
question. Is there god a tree? Because I kind of got the impression that the Verdant god was a tree at some point, and I don't know if this is just me like grossly misinterpreting things or like not reading Matthias's sections carefully enough.
Well,
but like,
I think it's supposed to be like Yggdrasil.
Yeah. How do you pronounce that?
I think it's Yggdrasil, but I'm not.
Okay, I always
100%.
pronounce. I mean, that's one of those things where like, well, it's like the Game of Thrones names. Will we ever know how they're actually supposed to be pronounced? Because I always pronounced it Yggdrasil, but
I always said Yggdrasil.
But yeah, I think it's like a tree of life sort of situation.
Yeah.
The god him itself is not actually a tree, but that is like the symbol, and the tree springs from, you know, yeah.
Also, like literally anybody who wants to come at me for like Indian and Asian names being difficult to pronounce, like, have y'all not looked at Norse names and like Italian names and like
Listen, I've
literally majority of Europe
Romanian.
Like, down.
Oh God, yeah, Hungarian language. If you have never
wild.
If you have never been yelled at over a loudspeaker on a Cold War era Hungarian subway, then you don't know what you're talking about. Because that's actually I mean, when I say yelled at, it wasn't me personally, but like when you get on their subways, which are, again, most of them are still Cold War era, it's the speakers are very loud and sharp and crackly, and their language is like mostly consonants, and it's barely understandable, like when someone is speaking very clearly at you, but when you're getting on one of those subways and they're yelling at you like, no, thank you.
Any mostly consonant European language just drives me insane. And like as somebody who has like grown up speaking Asian languages, I'm like, give us regular vowels. Like, come on. Like how dare you come at me like this?
Are you fluent in Hindi?
No, I'm fluent in Kannada. So South Asian or South Indian language, but I can understand Hindi and my mom speaks it. So still better than
I mean, that's better than the minimal amount of French and German that I can understand.
Yeah. Or the minimal amount of English I speak.
I don't think you've been fooling us all, so you're doing great.
Well, so other than do we anything else that we like wanted to talk about specific to Nina, or like Nina specifically? Because I also want to talk about side characters that were introduced to through her. But
I wanted to do a bit of a jump actually, because I just had a thought, and it's like hilariously cursed in my normal manner. And the thought was basically, I'm so glad that Zoya and Nikolai are like starting to become a pair in this, because pretty much it's like they both pined after the same girl, Coughalina, cough. And now they're like, well, I guess we'll marry each other. And
Well, if we can't have a Lena, we might as well marry each other.
And like, let's be clear. I know that's not what actually is happening, but like,
Yeah, but we don't want a Ted and Robin relationship here.
oh,
Ooh.
Bad.
I remember like the final season of How I Met Your Mother coming on, and it was basically me sitting in my apartment with my friends in like, I want to say either junior or senior year of college, and no, it was sophomore year of college, screaming, "No! No!" Just
So now everyone who listens knows how we feel about the ending of How I Met Your Mother.
Well, not necessarily. I just, if it's going to happen, it can't drag on for 20 years.
don't tell your children a story for like 17 years and ask them if you could sleep with their aunt. If I was
Awkward.
this kid, like in the middle of the season, I'd be like, "Dad, we know you love Aunt Robin, Aunt Robin. Just
Go fuck.
go
Like,
date her.
Yeah.
Get it
Leave
out of
us
your
alone."
system. I need this to be over.
But yeah, no, I like Zoe Lena. I like Zoe Lai a lot. But yeah, no, I'm gonna since that was definitely me being the swerve, just running around like a headless chicken into the middle of nowhere. I want to return to the other pairing in this book, which is Adric and Leonie, and I love them so much, and I'm so glad that they come back as characters because like Leonie is that little Grisha girl that Jesper's mom saves,
Right.
like in Jesper's backstory, and then Adric is the boy in like in the first trilogy who is like way too young to be fighting, but he's like, I'm gonna stay and fight with my sister, and his sister is like, my brother's staying with me, and Elena does like, if he fucking dies, it's on you. And then Adrian goes and gets his arm chopped off like a responsible teenager.
Yeah. I don't think I picked up that I thought that's what they were getting at as far as that was Jesper's mother who saved her, but I don't think Nina picked up on it.
Oh, I don't think Nina has any
I don't
idea.
think it's actually revealed until the second half of the book either. I could be wrong about that.
I don't know if it's revealed at all, honestly, but I just
well,
knew
it's
that-
very it's the story. It's not specifically said because she doesn't know. Leonie doesn't know the name. She just says that the what do they call Grisha in Novi Zem?
oh my god,
gosh, I can't remember the word for it.
Zoya. No.
No. Yeah, I can't remember what they call them. She says that Zawa. Is it Zoa or Zawa?
Zawa.
The Zawa healer.
ZOWA.
And she specifically says that the healer died saving her and everything. So yeah, it's kind of
it's one of those things that like you kind of pick it up because I think Colm mentions her name, like the name Leonie. Like I know her name was mentioned in regards to this is the girl that Jesper's mom saved, and I think Colm says something about Leonie going off to school, or Jesper says something about Leonie coming and being like, "Hey, I'm going to school in Ravka," or something like that. But I also think the other thing is that like Nina would have no idea that Leonie is specifically connected to Jesper because I don't think Jesper ever actually shares this information with the rest of the crows. Correct me if I'm wrong with that, but I don't think. Like I don't think he ever talks about that with them, and it's more just like let me angst in my corner about my mom, while my dad also angsts with me, but we're 5 feet apart because we don't talk right now.
But yeah, I mean, it's really nice. Well, I guess in one way it's a little bit maddening because it's like Leigh does very much keep her circles close in these books. You know what I mean? Like it's like the Grisha that come to Ketterdam and Crooked Kingdom are Zoya, Genya, are Zoya and Genya, and then Nikolai is as the king somehow. Okay. You know, and then in this book, the Grisha that Nina is with are Adric, who we already knew, and Leonie, who seems new, but then turns out is also connected. And I know that in a way, the world, the Grisha world, like their specific world, is not that large, particularly after everything that happened with the Darkling. But yeah, it's like sometimes things are just a little bit too connected. But it's still nice to. it was nice. It was good to see like Adric again. I mean, and to be honest, it is easier for them to bring him back than it is to introduce an entirely new character who we're just supposed to give a crap about. You know what I mean? Because they do play a pretty big part in Nina's story in this book.
Well, it also makes sense that like somebody like Adric continues to be a main character, just because if you think about it logically, the Grisha that would stay close and would like proceed to have power and retain power in Nikolai's current rule in the last 5 years would be those that he fought with and those that were loyal to him during the actual war. So like having that like continued loyalty and having those Grisha remain as main characters just like not only makes narrative sense and like also makes, you know, fan service sense, but it also makes logical like ruling a
Real
kingdom and
world
having
sense.
people. Yeah, real world sense. Thank you, Jonathan. I decided to go straight to ruling a kingdom versus real world. Obviously, I have, you know, great ruling kingdom experience. Meet my subjects. This is a little this is one of my
A
subjects.
hedgehog.
Here is another
Did you
one.
get that at Ice and Fire Con?
Yes, I did.
I knew you got the hedgehog at Ice and Fire Con.
and then here's my other subject. They're all very good. I'm a generous and benevolent queen, and I alternate who I hug to sleep every night so nobody's feelings get hurt. What was I talking about?
You know, that's funny too. Unfortunately, mine are real things. Like it's either my dog Socko, my dog Ellie, or my cat Marmalade. But yes, they do tend to to rotate. Yes, I know. My dog is right here.
Oh man, where was I? Oh yeah, but yeah, no, I think one of the coolest thing about having Adric back though is that we meet Adric as a child and as he is like very much like out of his depth in a war that is being decided by still teenagers, but like once again, there's that like 2 to 3 year gap in teenagerness, which like means that these people are like practically like grown-ups in his eyes, and like seeing him now not only in a position of authority, but he's like the leader of this mission, and like that's like really interesting to see.
I mean, it's both, but that's not that unusual either, because I mean, in wartime, soldiers tend to be young, so it's not.
Oh no, not like commenting on the being young thing, but just like he was the youngest of the group in the first books. You know, like he was clearly
like 12,
subordinate.
13, and now he's like 18.
Yeah, and he was like clearly the subordinate, and he was also the one who was like clearly treated as a child, despite all of them being young. And like he was the one that was very much like, you should be sent with the kids to be safe with the kids. So he was solidly an actual kid by the terms like set out by this universe. And so it's like seeing him like a proper grown up and like doing grown up things and like actually in charge of everyone versus like scrawny, gangly, one-armed child who lost his arm and like, how did he lose his arm again? It was some sort of fighting thing. I feel like
It was
Didn't the building collapse on him?
No. It was in the very beginning of Ruin and Rising, the last book. Yeah, it was like right after they left the caverns and they got attacked by a bunch of Oprichniki, maybe. I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know. It was something to do with a flying ship that they were on, I believe. But it's been, how have I forgotten this already? I guess I just don't care that much about Adric. Sorry, Adric.
Sorry, Adric. More.
Excuse me for a second, guys. My phone's buzzing and it's my mother's helper, so I need to just take an aging parent call.
No problem. Yes. Of course. Yep. I mean, I like. And again, like I liked Adric in the original books. I thought he's a really brave little, annoying but brave little kid. But I mean, yeah, it's nice to see him in this book having a relationship with somebody who's actually, or I mean I guess it's not really a relationship yet, but like having like a romantic like involvement sort of thing starting to happen with somebody who's actually interested in him rather than him gushing about Zoya all the time.
I remember that poor child. And I mean, like, I get it too, because like the number of crushes I've had on like women in teacher sort of positions who would also absolutely crush me is like very, very big. But also like, sweetie, no.
Well, she was so much older than him too.
I know. She's
I
like,
like how much you can relate to so many characters, Nami.
it's the problem is that I have based a lot of my personality on fantasy books, and as you grow up, you realize that all of those tropes just continue, and then also you just realize you're a disaster bisexual, and like that's pretty much it. It's just me. It's a disaster.
Bisexual. Oh Lord.
That's a whole mood.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best. It's very gay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't identify as bisexual specifically. I did for a long time, and then I felt more akin to the pansexual vibe for a lot of reasons. So I identify as pansexual, but yeah, a disaster nonetheless. So I feel you there.
Sometimes
That's the
you
key
just
word.
gotta fry some eggs. Yeah. Alternatively, sometimes bread, because it means bread. I'm so.
But I mean, the other and since we're talking about kind of, you know, side characters that we now, these are more side, well, Adric is the side character we learn more about. Leonie is technically being really introduced to us for the first time, but then we have Yuri. Also, wait, hold on, pause real quick. How is the Operat still a thing? Like, can we just like Rush Limbaugh him?
I really thought
Who
that
died today?
Exactly. Thank you. He is like the Rush Limbaugh of the Grishaverse right now, and I want him to go away.
Party time. Rush Limbaugh's
I would
dead.
like
Party
the
time, Rush
Opera to
Limbaugh's
stop
dead.
just hearing like a ghost and just being like, "Hey, bitches, it me," and
If you
everybody's
could
like,
just
"Oh,
stop being like greasy and creepy and awful and existing, like honestly, like how is he still a thing?
please
Stop trying to make the Opera a thing, y'all.
Are we comparing the
Please
don't. Trying to
Darkling
make
to
opera
Rush
happen.
Limbaugh now?
I was comparing the Opera to Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, the opera.
Mostly
Not
mostly
the
'cause I
Darkling.
was-
The Darkling
Mostly
is more
because
like
he's just-
Trump or Hitler.
Yeah, mostly because the Opera is like he's just kind of there, like preaching his bullshit. Okay, right? Like loudly and obnoxiously and causing trouble, and like we just want him to go away. Like, how are you? I mean, honestly, how is Rush Limbaugh still a thing the last like 10 years? Ugh.
Yeah,
He
and
was
Anyway.
for
I
a
would
while.
say the Darkling is more Hitler in my mind because like the Darkling's actually intelligent
True.
versus the Tito.
Versus the Trumpers.
I thought of the Darkling more as Putin myself than Hitler, but that's okay.
Ooh, that is
You might
true.
be right there. Yeah, you
I
might be right
very
there.
Putin vibes, guys. If Putin ever does some dark magic and rips a hole in Russia,
I feel like the thing about the Darkling is like he was obviously like an evil character. He's obviously not a good person. You know what I mean? He did so many awful things, but at the same time, like he wasn't doing them just for power. There was a part of him that wanted the Grisha to be recognized for what they were, and it's really hard to place him as like evil world ruler, like as any evil world ruler specifically, because he does have a little bit of depth to him, but since we're talking about the Darkling, who is, you know, dead technically, we might as well talk about Yuri.
Well, I was going to say the Darkling is Magneto.
yes. But once again,
Well,
real
but when we
world.
start- But when we start talking
your
about-
own.
Sure. But when we start talking about Yuri, like the first thing that comes to mind for me are neo-Nazis.
Yes.
It's just such an easy parallel to make.
For Yuri,
The
would also
idea
come up with
of
me is like
people-
straight up Kylo Ren,
yeah.
like Kylo Ren vibes.
Oh
Also,
yeah, the yes, where he's like worshiping Darth Vader's helmet.
But Darth Vader had a redemption moment, and
Yes. Truth.
we're not trying to redeem any of the people that
it's just
I
it's
think
so
the Darkling's followers are modeled after.
like I hate Yuri so much because he literally represents everything shitty about the world recently, and I'm just like,
Yep.
I will
Thank
say
you.
that on the Yuri Kylo Ren thing. I wrote an article for the Geekiary. God, I don't remember exactly when, but I will never forget the title because it's very proud of it. And it was Kylo Ren goes beyond emo, saves ashes of fallen enemies. And I feel like that's kind of like what Yuri's got going on in his life. Like he's just dredging. But yeah, he's well, Nick and I think it was Nick and I had this conversation because he was a little bit farther ahead of Jonathan in the reading, and Nami I think was just busy in general. And I literally said like his like creepy ass devotion to the Darkling is so like 2016 to present.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I think the thing that's like the most one of the reasons, like besides my like incredible identification with Zoya, I think one of the other reasons that Zoya's POV is so like hashtag relatable in this book is because of her like unbridled rage at everything that Yuri is doing. Because like granted Nikolai's also upset about it, but at least he's able to like compartmentalize and calculate and be like, I can still use this, we can make something out of this, whereas Zoya is just like angry and like there's like
he was never personally used by the Dark,
like but that's the other thing, like, and I think like that's why Zoya is so much more like easy to identify with, especially as a woman, especially because like at one point she explicitly goes off and she's like, who's going to defend the people he hate? And she specifically lists like all the women that she knew or that she was close to. So Alina, Genya, her aunt who was killed when he expanded the Shadowfold and hit that other town, and Bagra. And like she basically lists like
spoiler there, by the way, that happened. We found that out later.
Oh, no. She talks about Liliana in the first half.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes, we do. Well, we don't know it's her aunt. I'll give you that. But yeah, we do know that she lost somebody close to her in when the Darkling took over. The fuck was the town's name?
Novobrizsk.
Novokrbirsk.
But yeah, it's one of those things that it's like seeing her rage, and like specifically when they like go to that place and she's like ready to like stab all of his like new like saint followers because she's like, what about the people he hurt? And they're like, oh, but it was gossip. And she was like,
exactly.
And I'm like, hashtag literally right now, I can't deal with it. I think that's what
Yuri.
I've been so slow.
Yuri is like Yuri is the Trump supporters like being fooled by QAnon theories right now.
Oh God.
That's what it is.
I think so like full disclosure, I actually have not read the second half of the book yet. Like I know like the big reveal at the end, but I have only read the first half, and it has only been my first time reading this. Like,
I thought you'd read it already. I thought you were you and I were
looked up
caught
spoilers for myself because I'm a gremlin person. But I never actually finished it because like I just didn't have time, and also whenever I picked it up, I just was filled with unbridled rage at Yuri and like physically could not function and had to put it down.
Well,
I mean, and reasonable reaction.
And to be fair, even in the first half of the book, like without knowing anything that happens in the second half, like this book, it does not speed by. Like it's not as quick and easy. I would call the first trilogy like more of a quick and easy read, and then I would call the Six of Crows duology that like those are the books you can't put down because you absolutely have to know what happens next. You know, because everything is happening so fast.
I felt that way about this book.
Did you? I didn't.
Yeah, I flew through this,
but like, yeah, my dog had just been diagnosed with cancer. Yeah, I know. We've already talked about the dog situation. So like my dog had literally just been diagnosed with like cancer, and they told me she had like maybe 2 to 3 months to live. So like I was very much like, oh, it took me like 2 months to read this book.
I read till like 3 a.m, like 3 straight nights.
Oh wow.
Dang. I think for me, like Nina's grief was really a lot to deal with, and when this book actually had come out, I want to say like when I actually started reading this book, I had recently lost somebody in the family, so I was also like kind of in like a not very ready to read about a character explicitly dealing with grief in a very, very terrible hauling around a corpse sort of way. So, needless to say, it was not a quick read for me, and I literally only managed to finish it because I had like 3 chapters left in the first half, which is why pretty much all of my insight is coming from that last Zoya chapter in the first half. It's the only thing I actually read for this.
But I mean, like, honestly, were any of us not just kind of like, oh my God, about Yuri? Like, what?
We should all just stab
He's
Yuri.
worst.
It's the worst.
And like how they're always describing like how his eyes get watery, or Leigh Bardugo, I don't want to say they all, like, well, all the characters are like always describing how his eyes get all watery when he talks about the Darkling and what do they call him? The Starless Saint. And I'm just like, oh,
Ew, Yuri.
Ew, Yuri.
I find it so hateful and like frustratingly predictable and fitting that of course the Darkling is a fucking saint now because of fucking Chorus. Like, people suck. Ugh.
Well, he's not, like, in terms of like they're just they want him to be Yuri and
like, that people even would entertain the idea. Like,
I mean, and then if you got the opera, he's just mad because like he's not mad because he hated the Darkling all that much or anything. He's just mad because like it's something he can't control. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only reason he's mad. It's sort of like the Republican Party creating this and then being pissed off that they can't control it. Ha! That's a great comparison. Go me. Wow. I'm very proud of myself for that. Thank you.
The opera is Mitch McConnell.
Oh, shit.
Oh, God.
Yeah, probably. Oh my God, he's got that face of death, and you're just like, oh my God, how are you still alive?
Oh my God. From now on, I have removed the Apparat's chin. The Apparat no longer has a chin. His face is Mitch McConnell. Please proceed. The Apparat doesn't have a chin.
For real, though, that's exciting.
So is Hawley Yuri then?
Who? I'm sorry?
Is Josh Hawley Yuri then?
Oh, God.
Oh God, I don't know. Like,
signs point to
Well,
yes.
he doesn't have a beard, so he can't be Ted Cruz.
No, he's also too young. I mean, we're looking for somebody who is just like weepy, starry-eyed.
Probably Madison Cawthorn would be the better.
Oh God.
Oh, there's just so many of them. Who could we possibly choose?
Yuri is just all the.
We've just lost half our audience, though.
If half our audience is people who idolize those people, then I'm happy to have them gone.
Bye forever.
Yeah, like die in a fire. I don't care about you.
Yeah, no, I like straight up Yuri is like all the greasy boys from my hometown who are just racist assholes and Republicans. Like, Yuri. That's Yuri. No offense to Republicans.
You know, I would actually don't necessarily
side with Trump.
I actually don't necessarily agree with that. I think that Yuri is the people who could have been better, but got sucked into something because like the thing is like he idolizes the Grisha. He really does. Like he's like, you know what I mean? Like
he freaks out when he meets the triumvirate for the first time.
Yeah, like Kenya, and he's like, "Oh, you've been touched by the Starless one or whatever." Like, so
David snaps back.
He's definitely a weird, like, you can't really place him in that sense. But for real though, like that's what it is. Like the Apparat created this. He created this, and now he's mad that he can't control it. And like that's so on point, like
and the Apparat more.
And so then the Apparat is going to acquit him, but then he's going to go on a diatribe about how guilty the Darkling is.
I mean, oh God,
we're just going to devolve into, like parallels between.
Well, let's move to a parallel between something more pleasant. To me, the parallel between Zoya and Cordelia Chase.
Oh gosh!
And she starts off as the queen bee and then evolves into a mature, capable leader.
Yeah, I mean that's not
Yeah,
Are we
wrong.
gonna have
this is
to discuss how terrible Joss Whedon is now?
God,
is
no,
a
please.
perfect
No.
reference, isn't it?
or how terrible he killed off Cordelia Chase. So hopefully that doesn't happen to Zoya in this series. But
Okay, straight
No,
up.
Leigh Bardugo. I'm
Zoya-
pretty sure that if Leigh Bardugo is straight, then I will eat my left foot.
for that, yeah.
where did that come from?
I mean, the way she writes about Zoya, like I feel like Leigh Bardugo. This is her, like
That's a girl.
this is her dream woman, and I could be wrong about that, you know, and I would never ever ask her about, you know, that's her own story to tell or not tell, whatever. But like for real, like.
So that's not the question
As
you're going to ask.
I
at the event.
can't no, so I can't imagine like writing about a woman the way she writes about Zoya as a straight person, and maybe that's just because I'm not straight, but like I the way she writes it, like I don't know, man.
Those are gay-ass thoughts. That's my insight. Those
I'm
are
not,
some gay
you
ass
know, and
thoughts.
I again, I could be wrong. I certainly don't want to, you know, pigeonhole her or, you know, assume anything. But like, yo,
But if one day she shows up with a girlfriend who just is Zoya, like, we'll know.
or it was just like honestly, like it was. I mean, as a girl who like didn't, you know what these feelings were and stuff like that when I was younger. Like I look back and I remember like the way I thought about other like girls I knew, like in not my friends, like that's a different thing, but like the girls that you put on a pedestal, and it's like I look back and I'm like, why did I put? Oh, that's why. Whoops.
I see it now.
Hindsight is 2020, and it's also gay.
I feel like we need to get rid of any terms that involve that involve 2020.
No more 2021. 2020 vision. It's 2019 vision is the perfect
Yeah.
vision.
Yeah, 2020 is 2020 vision is canceled.
Sorry, off the ball. You have to switch it up.
What were you gonna say, Jonathan?
Well, I'm sure there are some good things that happened in 2020 for people. Not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a bad year, but I just think of maybe not in my lifetime, but I definitely know in my parents' lifetime there have been worse years. So
That's true.
I
mean,
but it's also one of those things that, like, just because things have been worse doesn't mean they weren't also shit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, like, I feel like, I mean, well, Nina's got her own personal 2020 happening in this book right now. But it's not going, I mean, at the end of the first half, at the end of the first half, it's not going so well for anybody else either, you know, like, I think, you know, Zoya and all them have just kind of been, have just disappeared into oblivion, and and that's kind of all we know about them. But yeah, I mean, and we have to gosh, wait to talk about more Nikolai and Zoya. That sucks. Zoyalai, is that what the actual
that's
is?
the, I don't know if it's the actual one, but it's the better.
It's the fandom one. It's
okay,
the one
it
that
is. I wasn't sure. I put forth. Is it like the only two I could think of were Nicoya or Zoyalai, and I was like, Nicoya sounds weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, Zoyalai sounds way better.
It's Zoyalai, and I also know this because I've specifically already written fan fiction for this pairing. It is a fake pretend marriage AU. I believe my exact summary for it was: bros get married to protect each other from gold diggers. Bros fall in love. What happens next will shock you.
And that will be on the next Oprah, right?
Oh, for sure.
Would it be Oprah, or would it be? I feel like that might be more like, I don't know. Would that be Oprah? I feel like Oprah wasn't a "what happens next will shock you" sort of talk show host at the end, at least.
It's
Yeah.
basically 10,000
Depends
words
on which
of pining
version of
and
Oprah that's been.
misunderstandings.
True.
It's 10,000 words of pining, misunderstandings, Genya or David being an icon, and eventually their friends being like, just kiss.
But yeah, like, so at the end of this first half, like, they've kind of disappeared into the ether, but we do also have Nina, who has realized that she's hearing something important with these voices. Once she lets go of Matthias, she realizes that, oh shoot, like, these voices are asking me to help them, and they want justice, and so she's going off to discover her own creepy things. I think at the end of this first half, we for sure know that she has discovered that the voices are coming from dead women and is it women and girls or women and children?
Women and children.
Yeah, so it's very much like something bad's going on at the factory. Like, not surprisingly, because like we knew the water was poisoned and shit. So
Also,
yeah.
I just opened my book and I found a page that I had marked because it's just Zoya pining kind of after Alina. Oh, not actually. It's just me reading gay into it. But specifically, Zoya, the quote is, Zoya was surprised to find she liked seeing Alina's name on churches, liked hearing it spoken in prayers. Bravka had given too much of its love to men like the Darkling, the Apparat, even the Lanistov Kings. They owed a little of it to an orphan girl with no dress sense. I love how, like, Zoya is simultaneously being super feminist, but also just being like, Alina, your clothes suck.
Yeah.
And I just
get your shit together.
What is that? What is a backwards compliment? It's a backwards compliment.
Backhanded.
Backhanded.
Sorry, honestly, let's be real. That was a whole compliment, and then at the end, she was just like, "Oh shit, insult! We have to find an insult."
That is Zoya for you.
God, I love her.
But I think that this has been a really good discussion of the first half of the book, and like we've been really good about not like major spoilers for the second half. So anything you guys want to say before I close out, other than like, yay, Zoyalai, and I want them to have many relations. I'm not going to say babies because that's their choice or not. So
yeah, they can make that call.
I did have like one kind of ending thought, which was like, I remember a lot of people being mad about this book when it originally came out because they were like, oh, it's the Nikolai duology, but like it's not about Nikolai. And I'm like, no, like it is about Nikolai. Like he clearly has a POV. It's like clearly all of his schemes coming together. Like people just be mad he's not charming in his head. And like,
is anybody like? I'm sure I've been told I am super charming, like one-on-one, in person, whatever. But like in my head, ain't nobody want to listen to this shit.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I think people are just disappointed that Nikolai isn't suave in his own POV, and I'm like, did you really expect him to be? Because this whole thing is like, he's like, hey Alina, like the reason we froze is because I'm not really like this.
So what we got was like Nikolai, like we got like Instagram, like TikTok, Twitter Nikolai in the first, however many books, and now we're getting Facebook Nikolai, where he's like, Nikolai is depressed. Nikolai is sad. Nikolai is big.
I would argue that perhaps we're actually truly getting like Nikolai's secret Twitter account where he just.
Oh my god! It's his shut up! It's his live journal.
Oh my god! Yeah.
It's his secret Tumblr. Even better, it's his secret Tumblr.
Yeah.
As long as it's not his secret MyFans.
OnlyFans. Listen,
OnlyFans?
I feel like they're they are adults now. They can do whatever they want.
Listen,
very
people
real.
would pay a lot of money for Nikolai's OnlyFans.
I would pay money for Nikolai's OnlyFans.
Let's also be really real. His secret OnlyFans would be suave as fuck.
That's the thing. It would be Instagram but sexier. That's what OnlyFans essentially is. But yeah, no, like we've been getting public persona, Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, maybe Nikolai, but like now we get like Facebook Nikolai, where he's just like you said, like vague booking, he's sharing word porn posts left and right.
This is Nikolai's abandoned Tumblr account.
He's like sitting there at his computer, like, what should my relationship status be? Like, can it be single or should I put it's complicated?
Wait, no, Tara. This is Nikolai's MySpace account, and he's debating what music to make his background.
Oh no! But who's in his top 8?
I mean, Zoya. David, Genya, Zoya, Alina. Oh no, wait, Alina's dead. So
it's not Alina.
He just put Yuri in his top 8 to trick him.
Orphan mom.
He's got the apparat in there because the apparat is like that shit fake friend that like you have to have in your top 8 or they're gonna tell everybody your secrets, you know.
Oh no.
Also he's got these like 2 really
trauma flashbacks. We gotta cut this off.
Yeah. But don't forget, guys, also in his top 8 are just 2 really quiet blogs that are the 2 really quiet MySpaces that are owned by, and I quote, Orphanage Mom and Orphanage Dad.
Oh God.
They've got, whatever their fake names are now.
What are their fake names? I don't know, man.
I can't help but think they're gonna make a comeback sometime.
Oh, you're probably right.
They like,
but we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. Also, so before I close this out, in 2 weeks, which is March 3rd, we're going to be covering the second half of King of Scars. We've put like our stuff out on social media about the rest of our coverage for the Grishaverse, but we've got second half of King of Scars on Wednesday, March 3rd. On Wednesday, March 17th, which I just realized today is St. Patrick's Day, we're covering I mean, I didn't realize it was but I realized we were covering Lives of the Saints on St. Patrick's Day. So I feel like I need to come up with something really crazy and fun for that. I will absolutely be wearing all green. It is St. Patrick's Day after all. And then at the end of the month, I was gonna do a random kind of breakaway episode for a book called Steel Crow Saga, but we are all going to be part of the virtual release party for Rule of Wolves that's happening on March 30th, which is a Tuesday. And that's with it's a virtual thing with Leigh Bardugo. Romans is the bookstore. It's out of Pasadena, California. So if it's on Eventbrite, I'll try to remember to put the link in the description for this video. But if you just Google Romans Bookstore Leigh Bardugo or Romans Bookstore Rule of Wolves Eventbrite, something like that, I'm sure it'll come up. It's actually a very affordable event, considering you get a copy of the book plus a couple special Grishaverse items as well. So we will be meeting on Wednesday, March 31st to talk about that. And then in April, we've got all new content stuff. But also I have already started our next series. So I will say just it's very interesting. And not in a bad way. It starts off a little slow, but as you can see, I've been reading it for 2 days and I'm already halfway through. And considering the very little—
Is that Her Majesty's Dragon you're on?
Yeah. It's Her Majesty's Dragon, the Temeraire book 1. So it's a very easy, quick read. So I'm and also if you like history at all, I think y'all are really gonna love it. But yeah, so we'll be back in 2 weeks to finish up King of Scars. And on that note, once again, I'm Tara, along with Nick, Jonathan, and Nami. Thank you again for joining us for Sagas and Sass, and we'll